Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me. I really, really appreciate it. If you are new here or don't know this already, my name is Ale, short for Alejandra. And today I want to show you my traveler's notebook passport setup. As you may know, I always post videos about this bad boy, but I also have this beautiful angel that keeps me company all the time. And this is what the journaling community tends to call like a passport TN wallet setup, an EDC for an everyday carry. You know what I mean? All those, I'm giving you all the buzzwords so that you know what I use this as. So let's do a quick tour of the outside. It has my name, Ale, and then it also has a little locket, which, as you can see, I love a locket on my journals because you can keep little notes and it's just so joyous. So any excuse to put a locket and add more sentimentality to my notebooks, I'm in. So that's there. I also have these little charms that I added to the side. I made this. I had some beads that I wanted to include. I wanted my notebook to have a pop of red since I really like red, and I use a black and red pen in this notebook all the time, so that felt like it tied in everything together. This is a little shell with a pearl charm, and then I also have a little coin, I don't know what that would be called, just a little gold pendant at the bottom, which I also added myself. And then I have not one, but 2 pen clips so that I can hold my red Muji pen and my red Muji pen and my black Muji pen. So it just looks like this. She's quite chunky. I'll admit that she's a bit chunkier than I originally wanted her to be. And I will explain why that is. Because if you can see, my notebook actually comes out significantly, which I don't love. But since the pens already came out and I had accepted that and, didn't mind that, I have grown to accept the fact that the notebooks really do stick out. But all that's in here, I will open her shortly. Actually, let's just open her now so that you can see how she looks on the inside. So when you open it, you can see that I also have this clip up here, and I like it because the back acts as like a paper clip, if you will, and I can add more notes so that this looks, again, just more personalized to me. And when I open this, it immediately brings me joy. This is a note that my partner wrote me when I turned 25. And then this is, which I always have had different variations of like these newspaper clippings, which my full-sized, as some of you may already know, sorry if this is redundant, I also have it, the little newspaper clippings. But I really wanted to add one to this one. And then I also printed out a photo of my parents when they got married and included it here. And I think it looks really lovely. Ironically, I want to find a way to edit the newspaper clipping in the back because it says short temper, a portrait of a man. And I don't want to do my dad dirty like that. So I need to fix that, but it just looks cute. If I ignore the fact that that's the title, I love the idea that, this is like a newspaper clipping of my parents' wedding. It's just sweet. Okay, on this side, it's kind of similar setup to my regular traveler's notebook. I have my gold stars because, as some of you already know, I am 7 years old. And then I also have these little dot stickers that I use for planning. Not all the time, but sometimes. Then I have the little canvas wallet zipper, which is this one in the brown or maybe camel color. I don't remember what it was. And I won't show you exactly what's in here, but these are just my different, like my debit card, my credit cards, and then below it are my IDs. So I will not be showing you that, but that's where these go. And then in here, full transparency, I bought this a few months before 2025 because I was very excited to try out Sterling Ink's Common Planner. But then when I went to put it into the system, I was very overwhelmed by how much overhang there was in the notebook. So for the first few months actually of the year, first couple of months I guess, I wasn't using it because I just didn't really like, again, how much overhang there was. So I was just using the Traveler's Notebook, again, wrapped in the same way that I wrapped this one. As you can see, it's the same thing. Yeah, so I had wrapped this one the same, and this was just the calendar insert. Again, I'll explain how this is used. But that's all I was using in here was just this insert, which obviously was way, way thinner than this notebook. Okay, let me just continue explaining. But just full transparency, this is what I was using. And even last year, I was just using the, let me find a good page as an example. Yeah, I was just using the undated weekly inserts from Traveler's Notebook. I've tried very many things. I feel like this system, I'm happy to change it as I need to. Something that's important to note, I think, is the fact that I don't have to do any of my work planning in a notebook because we have a very specific organizing method or planning method that my whole company uses, and it's all online. Because if I did have to plan in a notebook, I feel like my system would have to be completely different. But this is only like when I have a yoga class or when I have an appointment or when I'm seeing friends. It's very much just my personal planning. So I feel like I've had the freedom to kind of try different things and see what works for me. So I'm not super strict about sticking to something. I can be quite fluid with it. Anyway, so with the Sterling Ink notebooks, they're so beautiful. I think they're so worth it. However, the overhang was something I was really disappointed in. I like the feeling of the papers because they kind of make me feel like I'm using Hobonichi paper, even though I'm not. It kind of fills in that FOMO that I have sometimes because I feel like I'm the only person on this earth that doesn't use a Hobonichi. So I do love the paper. And again, in the back pages, there's a lot of empty ones, but I actually, like a menace, went in. I think this originally had like, I want to say maybe 180 blank pages at the back, but then I realized again, because of the overhang, that I didn't need that many. In fact, I don't know that I'll need any at all. And I went in and very carefully ripped out some of the, I know there's a word for it, because if you can see, they're kind of in like little sets of paper, and then they get binded. It's like little spines get binded into a bigger spine. Anyway, I very carefully went in and cut out, as you can see, all the extra thread. Cut out extra pages, and now I only have 40 empty pages in the back. That's just for some additional context, because then with that gap, that's where I've put the elastic band. Let me explain this. So in this notebook, there's really only two main things that I use all the time. But at the bottom of it, I have 3 of the Midori clips so that I can flip to each page as easily as possible. So when I flip to this page, for example, this is my April calendar, or the one that just passed. Again, a lot of these were backfilled because I was doing the different system, and then I realized that I didn't want to make this purchase go to waste. So I kind of hopped back into this and I was transferring some things. So, you know, bear with me. It's not perfect, but you'll understand how I'm using the system. So as you can see here, the red circles are for birthdays, and then I note them down on the side. So I put the number and then the person's name, number, person's name, that gets all listed there. So it's easy for me to see the month at a glance that I have birthdays coming up. Stars, as always, are just highlights. I took a day off that day, so that's a highlight. I also have this ticket stamp up here, which means I had a show booked that had a physical ticket and we were going at a specific time at a specific location. These little steam guys are my hot yoga classes. Again, where are we in the month? We're only here, or here as I'm recording this. So I haven't yet booked the rest of my classes, but as I book them, I put them in here to know when that I'm going to yoga on those days. The little grocery cart when we're going grocery shopping. The gray dots are oftentimes just put down when I've planned something with a friend, but we don't yet have a concrete plan. I just put it on there because I know I'm kind of booked for the evening and I need to not book myself again. But then if we figure out that we're doing something, I might put a relevant stencil next to it. For example, on Friday, I was going out for a drink, so that went next to that. I went to music bingo on Monday, so I put the little music stencil and wrote music bingo. You know, little things like that. The red diamonds are when I have to pay off my credit cards, so I don't forget. The book stencil is for when I have any book club calls or hangouts. So those are that. Again, obviously these squares are quite small, so I know that I don't have that much space. It's just the month at a glance. And then if I want more info, then I go to the next tab, which is the week that we're currently on. And this is where I can have a bit more information, where, for example, I'll list the actual name of the class for yoga that I'm attending and the time that I have to be there. Locations of where I'm hanging out, the time that I'm hanging out at. Just a little bit more thorough detail is what goes into these pages. And I split them up. I do a line dividing them down the middle. And then on the right side, it's just my daily to-do lists or like very important things that I don't want to forget. So yeah, different things, and I check them off as I go. Sometimes if I don't get around to them, I'll do the typical, I think it's like the classic bullet journal rules, where if you do like the side arrow, it just means you're passing the task on to the next week or the next day, whatever it is you need. And yeah, that kind of is always similar. I've been putting these black and white stickers that are so simple but so cute. They bring me a lot of joy. Again, the further back we get, there's like not that many things because I was backfilling, as you can see. But this has been working. I mean, not that it's been working really well. I had done the system, like I said before. I did it last year and it was great. I really enjoyed it. But at first, when I was kind of bitter that this had so much overhang, I decided to not have the weekly pages, but then I realized that I really wanted them. So I'm giving the sterling ink a chance, even though there's overhang. Let's see how many times I can say overhang in this video. And then at the bottom here, which is, you know, not attached to a specific day of the week, I'll either do more to-do lists that are not day specific, but just like, hey, a note to myself to be like, you need to buy this at some point. Doesn't really matter when, but at some point. Or I'll do meal ideas, because that can often be something that when I'm like really tired after my work day, the thought of brainstorming what to make for dinner can be really overwhelming. So if I have a list of meal ideas, like you can see here, I can kind of go in here and be like, okay, what are my options? Like here it was salad rolls, pasta bolognese, burgers, broccoli lemon pasta, sweet potato black bean quesadilla, Chinese lemon tofu, and then, you know, if I do eat any of them that week, I would do a little check mark. Again, just things to make things a bit easier for my future self. And I always check things off with the red Muji, and then anything that's really important or time sensitive, I will do little icons in red. And that's honestly it. The beginning of the Sterling ink notebook has all these very thorough trackers, but they kind of just overwhelm me, if I'm being honest. So far, I don't even know that this is fully accurate, but with a pencil, I've been shading in all the days that I've gone to yoga. But other than that, I don't know that I'm going to bother using this, if I'm being completely honest with you. I really try to just use journals in the way that makes sense for me and not like want to force myself to use it just because it's there. Like if maybe, I don't know, in December, I'm like, oh, I now know how to use this page. I'll use it, but I'm not going to like, I don't know, create work for myself just to like try and figure out how to fill these pages. Although if anyone has any input as to how they use these and if they found it helpful, please let me know. I'm always happy to hear that, and then it might, you know, apply to the things that I've been looking for but maybe didn't realize I was looking for them. Yeah, so that's that. And then at the end, the notes pages, I really haven't used them. They're kind of just there in case I need them. Over here, I keep, if ever I have cash, which I think right now I do have cash because it was my Christmas gift. Even though it is April, I still haven't used my Christmas money, so I'm saving it for a special purchase that's happening soon, I think. Or like gift certificates are in here, punch cards for places that I frequent, that's all there. And then in this back pocket, I have my most used stencils, which are the Hobonichi ones, and then those stickers that I was mentioning that I've really been enjoying. I should also mention that over here, I have more stencils that just don't fit in that pocket. They're like these clear stencils. Let me put them against a background. This one's also really cool. If I ever need that one, this is a Midori one. So those exist in this journal as well, but they're just in the back. And it fits really nicely. Okay, and then the last part is this notebook that I keep here, clipped like this. So in my last video, I mentioned that I do take notes sometimes as things in my life are happening in my Passport Traveler's notebook, and a couple of you asked if I could do a tour of how I use that. So I hope this is helpful for you. Yeah, so the one in the back is also a Traveler's Notebook insert, and it is the lightweight paper that actually was a wonderful surprise, is very slightly perforated. So if you need to take a quick note to give to someone, or you make a mistake, or you want to put it, sometimes like I might rip the paper and put it into my big Traveler's Notebook, you can do that very neatly, which is very nice. In the past, last year, I also had the equivalent of this, but in a smaller version, and it was the Midori one, which again is significantly smaller. But it all follows a similar theme. As you can see, I had titled it Tiny Notes on the Go, and this one's still called Tiny Notes on the Go. I just find it really helpful to have a notebook like this where you're not overly precious with it, and it can just be a catch-all. If I were to show you, I'm recording with my phone so I can't show you, but if I were to show you the absolute mess that my Notes app is on my phone, it is just the most eclectic, disastrous, messy situation ever. It's like one note is a grocery list, and then the next note is a grocery list from the day after, and the next note is a quote, and the next note is a random sentence that I don't even understand what it was about. It's just a mess. So knowing that I can kind of try and replace some of that use with this is very helpful. And how I use this is that I like the middle bit of the notebook. Essentially, I use this front bit as one notebook and this back bit as another notebook. So if you open the book this way, these are my tiny notes on the go. My first page is always topics to look into or get off my chest when I can. And if something comes up, I will add it to a list. And whenever I want to or can write a full-fleshed page on it, then I will. But then the rest is just, thoughts as things were happening. And in the back, if you flip it like that, then this is a separate system. And this is what I call just my running lists, if you will. Okay. So for example, I love to read, and I'm always getting recommendations from friends, from my bookseller friends, from a YouTube video I may have watched, or if I'm in a bookstore and I can't buy all of the books I want to buy, I will add it here, unless, I cheat the system and just take a photo with my phone. If my best self writes it in here instead, or at the very least, my second best self will transfer the title of the photo. We'll look at the photo, put it in here, and then delete the photo. Doesn't always work out, but we try our best. So book recs, and I've left, so this page will go to that. Again, some of these I haven't, they're not at their full fruition yet, but they're there, and they're reminding me that whenever it comes up to just put it in here. So for example, this one is a list of films to watch. As things come up, as I remember a film that I'm like, oh yeah, we've been wanting to watch that for a while, I can add it here, because there's nothing worse than when you want to watch a movie, have a movie night, and you spend more time scrolling on a streaming platform, and then you end up being like, you know what, we're not even going to watch a film anymore. So that's there. I have one for vocabulary, and that just says new vocabulary or refreshers. Again, I don't always transfer them in here because I annotate my books. So if I find a new word or a word that I haven't used in a long time, I might just make note of it in the book, and I don't always take the time to transfer it over here. That's fine. But one word that I was weirdly obsessed with in January was bibulous, which is excessively fond of drinking alcohol. I didn't know that word existed. I've kept a vocabulary journal most of my life, actually, and I think that's because when I moved from Mexico to Canada when I was young, I was so obsessed with perfecting the language and understanding all the words in the books that I was reading. So I've always kind of kept some form of a vocabulary journal. So this is kind of nice to tap back into that old habit, even though clearly I don't fill it in as much as I should. But it would be nice to see at the end of the year what words were, notable, I guess. Okay, let's keep going. So this isn't super long. Another one of my toxic traits is that I always have too many tabs open on my phone, okay? Too many. I'm talking, we can go anywhere from, oh man, if I'm being real and honest with you, it can sometimes go up to 30. That's insane. No one needs that many open tabs, okay? But what I found really helpful, and I did this last year as well, was to have an open tab section. And it's things that I might want to return to later and I don't want to lose them or forget the specific name. And I just write it down in here and they can just live here. I did this last year as well. Somewhere in here. Yeah, here. My open tabs, so I could return to them when I was ready. So that was great. And then what else is in here? And I leave empty pages in case I have a feeling that I will continue to fill these pages with open tabs. My partner and I are also on the hunt for the best margarita in our city. So this is the Margarita Diaries, and we write where the drink is from, the name of the margarita, the price, and then what it contains. So silly, but so fun. And that's it so far in the lists. But you know, there's much room to grow if needed. And then continuing back on the other side, because I think this was what people were curious in my previous video. If I am experiencing a lot of things in the moment and I don't yet have time to transfer it all into my regular traveler's notebook, I will write details in here that just either because I want to get it verbatim and I don't want to then skew the information later when I am trying to recall it. But in the moment, I think your thoughts just end up being different when you're writing them in the moment than when you write them retroactively. Or in retrospect. What would be the retroactively? I think they both work. Okay, you know what? Maybe that's a vocabulary word we need to put in this notebook. Okay, moving on. So yeah, I think that ends up being a really nice thing. And I think for me, it's just important to know that I have access to catharsis in my pocket at all times whenever I need it. I think the fact that it's small makes it less daunting. And like I said, you can rip it out, so I could just like tape it into the page in my traveler's notebook if I wanted to. Yeah, it's really lovely. I also am not like, as you can see, there were moments where we just wanted, I think one time we were trying to ship something for Christmas and we were so bored that we played Hangman. Like, it doesn't have to be precious, you know, it can be like a cleaning supplies list. I was brainstorming for my book club, like what I was gonna feed people, more book recs, you know, you don't have to be, or I was obsessed with Rosalia song. I still am to this day obsessed with everything and anything Rosalia. And I was on the bus home and I was listening to the lyrics and I was so mesmerized by the lyrics that I wrote them all down. Because why not? It's my notebook. I can do whatever I want. So yeah, I think just not being precious with it, using them however you need to. It doesn't have to be that serious. It's just fun little things. Some entries naturally end up being more serious because it's something that I experienced in the moment and wanted to write about it. But like this page, for example, is just this past week I've been listening to a lot of songs from like the 2010s and it's been so joyous. Like Hotel Room Service by Pitbull, Gimme More by Britney Spears, Summer by Calvin Harris, Hot and Cold by Katy Perry, Promiscuous by Nelly Furtado, Who's That Chick specifically, shout out David Guetta featuring Rihanna. Nothing, but this entry, for example, is quite heavy. It was just something that I witnessed during the week that it just felt really heavy in my heart. These are more heavy entries. Another heavy entry, but this is a little joyous entry about a couple that goes to my yoga studio and she puts sage, like the peppermint halo oil, on her temples and then puts it on her partner's temples. And I love seeing that every Saturday. Like, I know I go to yoga every Saturday morning, but knowing that I'm going to witness that little routine that they have is so calming to me. So yeah, that's just, this notebook is whatever we need it to be. And I think anyone that carries an everyday carry or like a pocket notebook tends to use it in this way, you know, kind of in this way, where it just doesn't feel as structured as our memory keeping or daily journal feels. So yeah, that just goes back here. Like I said, I clip it down. We close that, close this, and that's it. Ta-da! Anyway, friends, I hope that was interesting. I've been wanting to talk about this and how it is that I use it, but I think since my actual agenda system can change quite often, I haven't felt just super at ease with sharing it. But at the same time, you know, we're all allowed to evolve our systems as we need them to. And the essence of the system is always the same. It just changes slightly. But overall, it's always following a similar layout. So yeah, that's everything for today. Again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you again soon with another video. Okay, that's it. I will see you when I see you. Bye. Mwah.